Hello and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video with me, Oddworld Inhabitant, as your host. Now today I have a 2-for-1 deal for you Guard commanders out there. I'm going to be reviewing two formations and then comparing them. And the reason for doing this is that the two formations are almost identical, but they provide very different benefits. And what I will be reviewing is the Empress Fist Armoured Company from the Mont Ka supplement, and the Steel Host from the Sanctus Reach, the Red War supplement. And we will start with the Steel Host because that provides a very simple benefit, and we'll get into that after I've gone into what is actually in the Steel Host. So to fulfill the requirements of this formation, you must take one tank commander with a bodyguard tank, and then 3 squadrons of Leman Russes and a squadron of Hydras. So the minimum for units for this formation is 5 Leman Russes and a Hydra. The maximum is 12 Leman Russes and 3 Hydras. Now, realistically, if you're taking this formation, you're taking it in a competitive environment, you're going to take the minimum. Because as we have discussed in previous videos, if you take an all-tank army, which is perfectly possible to do using this formation, you will be highly at risk to competitive Death Star melee lists. So we need some bubble wrap for this formation, and we need to set aside quite a few points of bubble wrap. So this formation will typically, in an 1850 point list, take up about half your points. So the other half is going to be going towards bubble wrap. So because of that, we're only going to really discuss it in the realistic terms, which is the minimum. So what I'm going to be talking about is when you take 2 Leman Russes for your command tank squadron, and then 1 in each other squadron and a Hydra, so 6 vehicles in total. Okay, so the Leman Russes can be taken in any combination as you like. You can have them all of one type, one of each type. It's entirely up to you. And the Hydra, that just comes again as stock. You can add any upgrades you want to that, but as long as you fulfill the minimum requirements. Now, what do you get for taking this formation? It's very simple. Any tank, any unit, I should say, from the formation that is within 12 inches of the tank commander receives preferred enemy. That's very good. It's very important to remember it's not just the Leman Russes which benefit from preferred enemy. And that's it. That's the only bonus. It's relatively simple, but it's actually very powerful, because the number of times I can tell you that I've lobbed a battle cannon shell at an enemy bad boy unit come towards me. Maybe it's something as simple as a squad of tactical marines. Maybe it's as simple as something just drop podded down, mauled a platoon badly, and I need to just drop a battle cannon shell on that unit of tacticals, or stern guard, or assault marines, or grav potentially Grav Centurions, or Grav Devastators, or it could be Wraith Guard, the list goes on. But something is there, and you need to get rid of it. So you lob your battle cannon shell, or demolish your cannon shell, and you get a direct hit. Yes, I'm going to wipe the whole unit. You roll your to wounds, and you just get a bad spree. You get 2 or 3 ones in that, and suddenly you thought you'd wiped out the enemy unit. Suddenly there's still 3 melter guns or 2 melter guns running around your backfield, and they're going to start popping tanks. Preferred enemy means, oh look, I got some ones. I'll re-roll those ones. Preferred enemy lets you re-roll ones to wound. The amount of times, I can't tell you, it's so simple. The amount of times that I have lobbed a big shell, or hosed down a unit with an exterminator or a punisher, and the number of ones I get to hit and to wound, it's just ridiculous. So it's definitely, especially to wound. What you got to remember is most guard tanks are going to be wounded. The things you're going to be shooting at, you're going to be wounding on 2s. I mean, the only exception to that is the Punisher, where most of the time you'll be wounding on 3s. But, the only thing you need to worry about is those 1s. Now, preferred enemy does not affect scatter dice, unfortunately. Even with the new FAQ, it does not affect scatter dice. But thanks to the new FAQ, it does affect plasma cannons when you roll to see if they get hot on a vehicle. Which means the Lehman Russ Executioner is potentially, with this formation, back in business. Because obviously if you take 2 Sponson plasma cannons, you get hot rolls, you can re-roll them now. And I don't know if it affects the turret, but the turret is essentially a 3-shot plasma cannon. So I don't know what the rules as written is, but rules as intended, I would say it is a plasma cannon for all intents and purposes. So have at it, preferred enemy on that as well. That's really good. It's a simple formation. Disadvantages are you are going to be crowding, so any kind of large ordnance blasts or D blasts coming your way, you know, they're probably going to hit 2 of your tanks instead of 1, but you're guaranteeing some serious damage output. Tanks I would use this formation. I would use any of them, but the Vanquisher, unless that was on a tank commander, because the Punisher, in terms of rollings to hit, it's actually only the Punisher that really benefits from this, because you exterminator's twin linked anyway, and everything else is a blast template, and the Vanquisher's rubbish unless you have a tank commander. So there you go. So that's it. That's the disadvantage. The other disadvantage potentially is the Hydra, because the Hydra, whilst as again, it's one of the, we've talked about before, it's a fallen hero. It's a relic of a bygone age. It used to have Skyfire and Interceptor, and now it only has Skyfire, which means it only hits ground targets on 6s unless they're skimmers. But the Hydra's fairly cheap. It's 70 points. It's 70-point tax. Okay. But it is 4 shots, twin linked, strength 7. You know, if you're shooting this thing at, let's say, jet bikes, you'll be hitting on your regular ballistic skill, and any wounds of 1, you get to reroll. So the Hydra is not as much of a tax as it used to be, because you'll always end up facing jet bikes at a tournament. You'll always end up facing Tau at a tournament. And if Tau, any of those 2 factions bring any skimmers whatsoever, well, all their vehicles are skimmers, aren't they? Even Tau, I've seen Tau Piranhas coming back in a big way, which you wouldn't believe, but I'll cover that in another video. But all jet bike stuff. So yeah, your Hydra's not as much as a tax as it used to be. And don't forget, there's always going to be, oh, getting a phone call. There's always going to be at least a couple of flyers that you face every tournament, isn't there? Every other game there'll be a guy with a couple of flyers. So the Hydra's not a bad tax. But that's it. That's your 2 disadvantages. Your Hydra is a situational unit. You're paying 70 points, 70-point tax, which is quite bad. And you're forced to keep your tanks together. So comparing this to the other formation, which is the Empress Fist Armoured Company. Now, we're going to look at this formation on its own, not as part of Acadian Battle Group. So, the Empress Fist Armoured Company, it is again 1 tank commander who has to have a bodyguard tank, 3 Lehman Russ squadrons, so 1 in each, we're going to go for that, and 1 to 3 Tech Priest engine seers. Interesting. Now, what are the benefits for this formation? Well, the first one is Battlefield Doctrines. If a vehicle from this formation that is within 6 inches of an engine seer from this formation, so it has from the formation, suffers a penetrating hit, your opponent must roll 2 dice on the vehicle damage table and discard the highest result. So this is making your tanks much more survivable. Second special rule, formation leader. Any Lehman Russ from this formation within 12 inches of the tank commander from this formation has a ballistic skill of 4. Heyo, that's good. And the final buff is Steel Phalanx. If a unit is tank shocked or rammed by more than 1 vehicle from this formation, the same turn, subtract 1 from its leadership for the tank shock test, or add 1 to the strength of the ram for each vehicle after the first. That's not particularly useful, but it's not to be forgotten. So, this formation is good. You're actually overall, you're paying for less. This formation definitely tailors itself to, I would say, the more Dakar variants of the formation, of the Dakar Russes, I should say. So, Ballistic Skill 4, what's that going to affect? Vanquishers. Hello. Biggest problem with Vanquishers is their crappy ballistic skill. Suddenly, you got Ballistic Skill 4, Vanquishers are back in the game, baby. They really are. They really, really are. Exterminators, they've got Twin Linked, but Ballistic Skill 4 Twin Linked is better than Ballistic Skill 3 Twin Linked. Very good chance you'll hit with every shot from your Exterminators. Don't forget, this is also affecting your hull weapons. So your Exterminator is, instead of hitting with half of those heavy bolter shots, he's hit with 2/3. That's the difference between 4 and 6. 4 heavy bolter shots or 6 heavy bolter shots hitting. That's good. Plus the Exterminator autocannon nearly all hit. You're looking at probably 13 hits a turn. It's a lot of wounds. 4 of those wounds will be wounding on 2s. So I don't need to break it down for you. That's good. And obviously the Punisher. The Punisher really, like the Vanquisher, really benefits from this because it finally allows you to take Punishers outside of Pasking a Punisher. Because the main problem with the Punisher is you look at its gun and you go, oh wow, 20 shots, that's great. But only half of them hit. That's like, oh, it's only 10 hits, that's not that good. Suddenly 2/3 of them hitting, you're looking at more like 15 hits. Maybe a little bit. That's like 3/4. That's slightly high, but you know what I mean. You're looking at 14, 15 hits. That's really good. Again, you're looking at 10 wounds. So instead of doing 10 hits and then sort of 6 wounds, roughly. I'm doing this in my head, obviously. It's 5 or 6 wounds. You're looking at 10 wounds, 15 hits, 10 wounds. You're almost doubling. You should be increasing the amount of damage you do by 33%. That's what it should be, which is great. The like I said, Steel Phalanx isn't that great. The Battlefield Doctrines makes them all tougher. So, how would I run this formation? So there you go. Before we say that, so there we go. They're the 2 formations. You've got one, which gives you preferred enemy, which definitely caters to your big blasts. Your Eradicators, your Executioners, your Demolishers, your Lemurus Battle Tanks. To a certain extent, your Exterminators as well. And that's the Steel Hose. And then you've got the other formation, which affects your Dakar Leman Russes. So that's your Punishers, your Vanquishers massively, and your Exterminators. It also kind of affects your other Leman Russes, your Blast ones, because they'll be scattering 1 inch less, but not massively. Not massively. I mean, the Eradicator kind of benefits from it, because obviously the heavy bolters that you'll be putting on there will be hitting on 3s and 4s, but I almost class the Eradicator. The Eradicator's halfway between a Dakar Leman Russ and a Boom Leman Russ. So how would I run this formation then? How would I run each formation? I've sort of already said it, but I would go for, in the Empress Fist Armoured Company, I would go for the Tank Commander and his buddy tank as both being Vanquishers. I would give them hull las cannons, and I would give them hull multi-melters. Okay? The reason you can afford the extravagance, which is 2 pairs of hull multi-melters, is I would not take Pask with this. You don't really need him now. It's a lot of points. And the points you're saving on... I mean, you don't really need Pask. It's difficult to say. If you have 40 more points, bang Pask in there. But that's already an expensive unit. You look, it's an expensive unit. I mean, yeah, I'll tell you what. If you put Pask in that formation I've just described, in that squadron I've just described, you're looking at 2 Leman Russ Vanquishers, both with preferred enemy, both ballistic skill 4, and Pask has reroll armor pens. You know, so that's your ultimate. That's a Night Buster. I would nickname the Night Buster. You know, that is going to turn 2. If you've got an Imperial Knight barreling down on you, turn 2, it dayed. It dayed. Oh, it really dayed. Okay. So, and then the other tanks I would take in this formation, I'd almost be tempted to take 3 Punishers. Almost, but not quite. I would take 2 Punishers with Heavy Bolters. Heavy Bolter Sponsons, and then probably an Exterminator. Either an Exterminator or an Eradicator. Something that's in between. That's what I would take with this formation. And then number of Tech Priests, I just go for the 1. He is a tax at the end of the day. 1 or 2. 1 or 2. And then that's how I'd run that formation. How would I run the Steel Host? It's a little trickier. How would I run the Steel Host? Well, in the 3 normal tanks I'd have to take, I would go for 2 Executioneers with Plasma Sponsons. Bearing in mind that that's if we get to reroll all this preferred, those gets hots roll with preferred enemy. I would then go with a Leman Russ Demolisher. And then I would go for a Vanquisher on the Commander and a regular Leman Russ on the as his bodyguard, and I would get those guys to split fire using the tank order split fire. So because I'd have my executions aren't going to glance themselves to death, so that covers me strength 7, 5 strength 7 blasts. That covers me for a lot of. That's like a jack of all trades almost. That can light transport shred like the Exterminator. It can MEQ shred. It can Terminator equivalent shred. I mean, Centurions that drop down, grab to death one of your things. Hello. Let's say they want to go for your Warlord if it's in the Vanquisher. They grab that to death. Hello, 10 fucking plasma templates with preferred enemy. Bye-bye. You know. And that's you know, bikes, they're going to have to jink. So that's it's a really nasty combo. Demolisher, because you want to be able, if you get something big and nasty dropping down on you, you want to be able to make sure, let's say you get a big squad of Centurions dropping down, you just want to be able to one-shot it, bam, dead. You can't really go wrong with a Demolisher, and now that it's got preferred enemy, you really can't go wrong with it. Regular Leman Russ, because again, you'll be shooting that at MEQs and the like, and so you'll want to make sure you've got preferred enemy on that. Vanquisher on the Tank Commander, because you want to take advantage of his Ballistic Skill 4, and up until that point, I would say the formation as a standalone wouldn't have a huge amount of dedicated anti-tank. The Executioneers can kind of do anti-tank, and the Demolisher can kind of do anti-tank, and the Leman Russ regular can kind of do anti-tank, but the Vanquisher would be your primary go-to anti-tank unit. So that's how I'd run them. Very quickly, which one do I think is better? I have used the Steel Hose formation in a tournament twice. And both times I was not let down by it. It just allowed me to, and in one game I beat Screamer Star with it, and in another game another tournament I struggled against Wolfstar. That's because I didn't buy enough bubble wrap. The Empress Armoured Fist Company I've used twice as well in tournament practice games, not in actual tournament practice games, but I won one game, lost one game. it's very good. I would say they are very closely, they're almost equal, but just for the fact that you get 3 bonuses with the Empress Fist, I would say that one's better. Because, and this is the reason why, very quickly, the Steel Host only increases your damage output. The Empress Fist Armoured Company increases your damage output with that higher ballistic skill, and increases your survivability if you're near those tech priests. I mean, you could buy 3 tech priests that formation, put 1 near each squadron, roughly, and they're all a lot stronger. So, overall, I would say the Empress Armoured Company is better. But, the Steel Host does have it. The Steel Host does make the Executioner a valid option again, which is something to remember. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys next time.